we start. So welcome to our August UPCA meeting, pretty exciting. We have a survey for all our UPCA members. We sent a similar one out last year. Just kind of want to get your feedback, get your opinions, see how everyone is doing as far as UPCA goes. So I will be sending a link to that survey that you can fill out. We also have our mission and vision statement and tagline getting updated. So I'll send this email as well, just for everyone to kind of look over. We've gone through it as an executive board and just tried to kind of like condense everything that we do into those 3 statements. So go ahead and take a look at that, send any feedback or ideas that you have, and we'll come up with the final version to let that circulate and then officially update it. So keep an eye out for those emails. One more thing I just wanted to mention is there's a special session going on. Tomorrow there's going to be a bill heard on tobacco. So if you are interested in that or not familiar with that, go ahead and check le.utah.gov. They do have there is a recording of it being heard in committee, and tomorrow it will be discussed on the floor. So take a look at that if you are interested. So that's all of our announcements. I just want to introduce our amazing speakers for today. Thanks everyone for being willing to help out. Let's see, I don't think Teresa's made it on yet, but we'll make sure she makes it on by her turn. So we have a few speakers talking to us about school sector involvement today. So we have Kim Leffler. She works with the Payson Utah Coalition, CTC. So she's going to talk about working with local school districts. And then we'll turn over to Lori Thorne, and she's going to talk about working with coalitions as a school district in Alpine. And then Teresa is going to speak about working with higher education as a coalition. She's from Southwest Behavioral Health. And then Carl Hansen from BYU is going to talk about working with coalitions as a higher education establishment. So we'll go ahead and turn that time over to Kim. Feel free to share your screen or slides or start talking or whatever you need. And you're on mute, Kim. Quote of 2020.
Okay. I didn't really prepare any slides. I just thought I'd kind of talk a little bit about what our coalition did to involve our schools. And when I first took over this position, well, not when I first, it'd been a few years, but I went to each individual school and we went over their SHARP survey, their individual school SHARP surveys. And that was, I think, an eye-opener for a lot of them, because one of our junior highs just said, our junior high principal, she just said she would just get the SHARP survey and look at it and go, huh, and then set it on the shelf. So when we kind of went through it page by page, and she loved it. And after that, she did a consensus of her whole school for a couple of years. She's no longer the principal there, but she was an active member of our coalition for quite a few years. So we have some of the principals or vice principals participate on our coalitions. Then we also have both of the school psychologists that participate on our coalition. And I think they give really valuable insight into what's going on in the school. And then we can kind of look at our SHARP survey and then kind of merge that with what they're saying. And I think that makes a lot more sense, and they have great input on what we can do for our action plan. So for us, I think our school participation, I think we are a little sometimes heavy on the school participation, which is fine. And then we're weaker in some of the other areas, but I think they've been able to give valuable insight into the SHARP survey, and not only from what we're reading, but from what they're seeing. So we decide whether those are, you know, that's what they're actually seeing. And most of the time it is. And they also can give us some great resources on things that are going on in the schools, and we can help them with things that are going on in the community. So for us, school participation has been really good and really strong. And that's really all I have, is just, you know, they've been great and successful and been more than willing to participate. So we have not had any trouble getting school participation.
Okay, awesome. And we will do a little bit of Q&A at the end, so if you have questions, just hang on to them. And we'll flip over to Lori.
So I just tried to look at things that help our district because we're part of the coalition. And so from our district, as far as district leaders, and I know that we have some like school administrators on some of the CTCs, but some of the coalitions that we are on the Utah Valley Drug Prevention one, and that Michelle does such a good job on. But we are also on like the Hope for Utah Task Force and the Utah State Suicide Prevention Coalition. And we have district representation at Pleasant Grove, Saratoga Springs, and AFCTCs. And they used to have like a North County coalition, and I keep hearing that they might, kind of a medical one, that they might bring that back. But so I was just going to talk in general about why we feel like it's important for someone from our district level to be on the coalitions. And for us, the benefits are huge. So especially like for the Drug Prevention Coalition, we love that because it keeps us up to date on the new laws. I mean, sometimes we get handed a list as a district and it's a little brutal. So it's nice to be able to hear more about those. So, and then also, especially in the Utah County one, then we are also on the team that helps with changing some of the laws. So it's really fulfilling because then you know that like it's moving forward, like things are happening, you can see things happening. So that's kind of a cool thing. Another bonus is that the coalitions sometimes have access to data sources that sometimes school districts don't have. And so sometimes we can get a broader look at data, which is awesome. We love that we can find out from the different coalitions some of the current trends that are happening in the communities that are within our district, and even just in our county. And then we love to find out ideas that other people are doing and steal them and do them ourselves, and that really helps our community too. A lot of times the coalitions are aware of grant opportunities that we could take advantage of. So, you know, in a school district, anytime you can get more money, it's a good thing. And also just the networking alone is a huge for us, because then when something comes up, I mean, I can think of 3 people to get help with the issue, or, you know, even just some advice or just more information. And so the networking has just been invaluable. I've met a lot of great people. So I work at the district office in the student services office. I'm one of the directors here, and I've only been in this position. This will be starting my 3rd year. Before that, I was at Polaris High School. So that was our alternative school in our district. And I felt like I knew some people and had a good network and knew some good resources, but nothing compared to now that I've been on the coalitions. And it has just completely expanded that. Some of the things that we are hoping that we contribute to the coalition. So I took a look at how it helps us and maybe how we help it. So we're hoping that, so usually a lot of times the coalitions are about helping teenagers or just school age children, and we are the keepers of the children. So a lot of times we can help with access to students and access to parents. So we have in Alpine District, we have over 80,000 students. So when you think about what kind of how far we can reach with those kids, it's kind of a huge thing. And then also we have and then their parents as well. So we can send out one email that gets everyone, all the parents at once if we need to do that. So there are a lot of ways to get resources to parents, which is huge. So hopefully that is a help. And also sometimes it's hard to get into the schools because principals are pretty nervous. Sometimes they get bombarded with people trying to sell them stuff all the time. And so it's nice when it can get verified through our office or through, and well, just even through us as individuals, so that then our friends that are administrators at those schools, then they seem to, they're a little more trusting, I guess, because they really do get they Oh man, people try to sell them stuff all the time. We also have 8,000 employees, so we can reach all those students, some of their parents, and then plus we do have a lot of employees, so we have an opportunity to try to help there too. Another thing, this is something that is kind of a both. We help and they help us, but I feel like coalitions really bring some credibility to a working team. So we are all working toward a common goal, but it makes it, when there are more people and more resources working toward that common goal, it just makes it feel lighter all the way around. And then it makes it feel like you can really accomplish many things. I love the Utah Valley one that Michelle does, because we always have some action items that we can sign up for, volunteer for, and I just think that is awesome. And then probably the last thing that I would say is that it really is just fun to rub shoulders with good people. And it's even more than just networking or, figuring out who you can find out information from. It really is just kind of self-gratifying, or it's just fun to rub shoulders with awesome people doing awesome things. So that is a great thing for us as well. Those are the things that I could think of. Hopefully that helps, but I'm happy to answer questions later.
Awesome. Thanks, Lori. Teresa, I'm glad you were able to get on. Sorry for all the technical difficulties. A lot of people are having trouble getting in.
No worries. Our tech people just updated some things too, and it just blocked us out. So Abby had a different idea and it worked. So
Perfect.
Give her props.
Great. Thanks, Abby.
Thank goodness.
Well, are you ready to take it away, Teresa?
Yeah, hang on. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this. Okay. I need to open my PowerPoint now. I'm a little bit frazzled. So hang on one second.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I hope everyone else that was trying to get on was able to. I see a few people that had emailed me, so yeah, please help your friends if they're not able to get in.
Okay, I just can't find my, give me a sec to find this silly.
Do you wanna have Carl go first and then we can let you go after?
Either way, I just found it, so it'll just take me a second to share my screen, I guess, and whatnot. So okay, did that work?
Yep, we can see.
Okay, good. Okay. So, all right. So the thing that Michelle asked me to do is talk about nurturing prevention partnerships with higher education. We're really fortunate in our county. We have two different higher ed facilities. We have Dixie State University, and then we also have Dixie Tech. And both of those organizations have been just bent over backwards to work with us, and we feel really fortunate that way. They have a lot of resources that we need. And so initially I just went in and made an appointment with Del Beatty, Dean of Students, and talked to him about how they could help partner with us with Reach for Hope and our other coalition as well when I was doing that one. And he was fantastic. I wasn't aware at the time, but he is a very huge advocate for mental health and for suicide prevention. So I invited him to be on my key leader board, and we've had a great working relationship ever since. One of the things he did, we asked him if we could put mouse pads in their computer lab in the Holland building. And he said, no, I want you to put them in every single computer lab in the whole university. And so we have those suicide prevention hotlines out. If you go into any of the computer labs at Dixie State, you'll see those mouse pads that have the coalition's logo, as well as all of the crisis lines. So that was a pretty cool way to start with them. And it just blossomed into a whole bunch of other things that we're really excited about. So he put me in his little golf cart, and we trolleyed across campus to the new wellness center. And introduced me to the director there, and then we were able to go in and talk about some of the ways that we could partner with them. And they've been wonderful partners too. They've hosted a SAPS training. Dixie State's wellness staff has literally done about 600 QP. I'm getting feedback. They've done trained over 600 gatekeepers a year in the last couple of years for suicide prevention, which is really great. It's almost double what we've it almost matches what we've done in the community, and the rest of the whole community. So we also partner with the Community Ed channel at Dixie State. And Melissa Anderson is the one in the middle right here. She's on both of our coalitions as our media rep. And she has championed our cause so much. I can't give Melissa enough credit. She's done countless stories on the things that we've done as a coalition throughout the years. And she's really created a really amazing video history for us to be able to look back and see some of the things that we've done. I started going through digging up some of the stories, and literally there are just, I can't even tell you, probably 50 different stories that she's done on what we've done with the different coalitions in the county. So reach out, you know, she's on both of our coalitions and she's given a voice to the coalition, which is amazing. We worked with NAMI on campus at Dixie State, and that's a really strong organization of students that help promote mental health. They've invited us to take part in some of their health fairs. We've done keynote addresses at the forums that they've sponsored for families and students. We've done booths at that event as well, and we've been involved in the planning when they've had activities and events at the university. We've worked with campus police on a number of different things. They were the first ones that accepted the invitation to conduct party patrols throughout the county. And they actually were key in bringing all of our law enforcement agencies together. We had a hard time getting our foot in the door initially with some of them. And once campus police got on board, some of the other agencies were willing to do that. And the last party patrols we did a couple of years ago, we were able to engage all 13 law enforcement agencies in the county, and that's really because of the relationship we had with campus police. They hosted a law enforcement training where we talked about underage drinking prevention, and we invited all the agencies throughout the county. They also helped us host a law enforcement training for SAPS, and I think that was kind of a first that we did. SAPS training for all of our law enforcement officers, specifically our SROs in the county. And then they also own the, I'm trying to think what it's called, but it's a big amphitheater up in Zion. And we were able to partner with them after we had several suicides in our community. Someone up in Zion, up in Springdale, invited us to take part in a collaborative effort to have Alex Boyer come down and perform. And because we have that relationship with Dixie State, we were able to secure that theater with no charge and put on a really amazing event for the community. And we honored families who'd struggled with the loss, and we had a lot of those people there, and they got to meet Alex and talk to him. And we got to provide resources. We had a booth there, and the Hope Squad kids came, and the Dixie State University Hope Squad kids came. It was really cool. So this is Dr. Tasha Toy. She's the Multicultural Inclusion Center director at Dixie State, and we've worked with her more recently to plan for a safe zone training, which is basically we wanted to train all of the counselors, SROs, and admin throughout the school district. Unfortunately, that got canceled because of COVID. We're still hoping to be able to do that, but safe zone training is a strategy that we wanted to use to help train educators about how to be inclusive with marginalized populations. And Tasha, that's her expertise. We may end up having to go a different route because now she's super busy, and we may do it a different way, but we're definitely going to be working with her on other projects. So this is Raging Red. Raging Red is the performance group at Dixie State, and they do a lot of things to promote mental health and inclusion. And one of the things that they've done for us is help us provide resources in our schools. So they'll come to any school that requests and perform and teach kids about inclusion. They teach kids about positive mental health and how to even access resources. So that's been a really, really good resource that we've been able to pass on to the schools in our school district. This is Sarah Raymaker, and she and I became good friends. She was the student body president at Dixie State a couple years ago, and they approached us to see if they could start a Hope Squad there. And so Dixie State and BYU were the first higher education institutions to sponsor a Hope Squad, and I was really proud of that. We got involved in the initiation and then the facilitation, the training with that, and Sarah really championed Reach for Hope and mental health, and she helped us work as the liaison between Reach for Hope and Dixie State. So that was really kind of a cool thing that we got to do with them. And then finally, Dixie Tech has been just so accommodating with everything that we've done. They helped us with our DEA 360 training. We were able to invite people from the 5-county area to come and participate in that and learn about what the DEA was doing with the opioid crisis. And then they also give us access to their big theater every year so that we can do a district-wide Hope Squad training. In the last couple of years, we've filled that auditorium to capacity. It's about 400 students, and their advisors come and we're able to train them, but we don't have to pay anything. They allow us to come and have the training there free of charge. They allow us to bring lunch in, which I know isn't always the case on a university campus because they do have catering there, but they've been more than accommodating to help us with all of the things that we've asked as well. So we just feel really fortunate that we are able to work with the higher education groups in our community. And I know that not only has it helped us build those relationships, but it gives us access to resources that we wouldn't have otherwise. We've had our Washington County Prevention Conference, which is we host about 100 people every year in the community, key leaders and people that work with young people. And they give us the nicest room at the university. This is Dixie State. They give us the nicest room there. They don't charge us. They provide the tech and all of the things that we need. And so we're able to stretch our dollars a little bit further too because of the access to these additional resources. So I know that we emphasize this all the time in prevention, but I can't emphasize enough that prevention really is all about relationships and building those relationships and not being afraid to walk into the Dean of Students office and make an appointment. Just say, hey, let's sit down and talk about how we can work together, and make sure that they know that we are advocating for them as well, that we're going to do some things to reciprocate with the things that they're doing for us. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have, and I'm sorry about the tech weird stuff. You guys are awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, thanks for hopping on and dealing with that. Well, so just a reminder for everyone, if you have any questions or things you want to ask more for all of our presenters, you can just hold on to those till the end. You can go ahead and type them in the chat box if you want, and we'll do some Q&A at the very end. So let's turn it over to Carl.
All right, can you guys see that? Is that working all right? I have no idea what's going on the other side. I guess that's the danger with Zoom, right? Worry about that a little bit with our students as well. I have no idea if they're paying attention behind the scenes, but that's okay. You're right in the middle of your lunch hour and hope you're enjoying it. Really appreciated Teresa's good comments. I think they're right on. A lot of those were nice macro level pictures of connecting with higher ed and some of the benefits with that. Michelle instructed me to kind of take a little different twist and look at it from more of higher ed's perspective in working with the coalition. And when I did that, I zoomed a little more micro into, well, me, right? Faculty, and what's my how do I see this kind of work here? And so first of all, that's the nature of where I'm headed, I guess, understanding faculty in higher education, and really that we're people too. And hopefully by having this conversation with you guys, maybe you could leverage that understanding just a little bit more to connect more with the select faculty that you see as benefiting your work in coalitions. But first of all, too, I'd also like to say, I feel like I'm amongst friends. I've been a faculty member here at BYU for 15 years, and I'm currently a professor and chair in the department, and so I do have some administrative responsibilities. But prior to that, I spent 11 years at Montana State, and as a part of that role, I worked extensively with the Communities That Care Coalition there, chaired that coalition, as well as in previous years there, chaired the Healthy Community Coalition, and also worked full-time as an injury prevention coordinator in the local health department. And so I feel that I'm amongst my public health friends, and we're speaking the same language, right, when it comes to this important work. And understand that as I talk, you ain't going to involve faculty if you don't perceive it as a win-win. I totally understand that, and Teresa did a great job of showing, okay, here's some of the values she sees with connecting with the university. Faculty also see some value in connecting with coalitions. And so I'll speak from that perspective just for a minute. But I think going down that road, sometimes we get a little freaked out. Many of you, if not all of you, have been involved in higher education. You sit in the classroom and you look at faculty as maybe sitting in the ivory tower, and they're a little bit snobbish. They may be even a little bit boring, and they're hanging out up there thinking they know it all, right? And so sometimes I think that can be a barrier in connecting with higher education, because you're a little freaked out about involving faculty in your work. I get that. I understand that, and I know that those kind of faculty do exist. But hopefully, in a few things that I talk about here, we can ease your mind, because faculty like to have fun too. All right. Maybe you set into some classes where your instructors have done things like this. Pew Study, state of social media, pew, right? Abnormal behavior, that's kind of gross, but faculty like to have fun. And we are people too, just like you. However, when it comes to higher education, our responsibilities, or the things we've got to get done for our jobs, are probably a little different than those of you that are in, well, I'm pretty sure they're a little different than those of you that are in the trenches working on the front lines with this work. And so understanding those differences, I think, can really bring us together and become a win-win, right? So that's just a few slides on this idea. At the university, academic programs could fall into two basic piles, and maybe thinking about this a little bit can help from a coalition perspective as well. You got a bunch of academic programs in the university that fall, kind of in these piles, are really content heavy. And then you've got your professional programs. I think faculty that fall into these two piles may be more motivated just a little bit differently in terms of whether or not they should or would connect with a coalition to do their work. On the professional side, we're producing students that are going to be in the trenches with you guys at some point. We've got to be on the top of our game in order to connect our students with you guys, or even to teach them how to best do a good job in the communities, right? And so just having that basic understanding of these two piles of programs may help you connect better with faculty at the universities that will better serve the work that you're doing, and it can be truly a win-win. But maybe not too. That's not mutually exclusive. It's just an observation. Here's, you know, we won't go through every single one of these points, but this comes out of Michigan State University actually, and it's from a university's perspective. What do we see as benefits of connecting or engaging with coalitions or other community activities? And so there's a laundry list of reasons here, and some of it relates to, you know, like the mission of the university. So I think about Utah State and our state, for example, and their extension offices. They have this incredibly important mission where they need to serve communities, and it seems like everywhere you turn around, there's an office in the community you show up in from Utah State, right? And so they have a wonderful outreach responsibility. Our mission here at BYU is it's a little bit different. Matter of fact, it's totally different. I don't know if you know what the mission statement is here, but it says something like, to assist individuals in their quest for eternal life and perfection. That's different. That is really different. But that doesn't mean I do not have responsibilities for community outreach. However, that mission statement is 180 degrees different than Utah State's mission statement. I think understanding those basic things about the university can help you connect and have touch points that can help you in your work. Just a couple other maybe things here. Generating resources. You know, university administrators oftentimes want faculty to reach out into community coalitions so that they can generate additional resources. Maybe I'll throw this in here right now. One of the responsibilities, well, sometimes faculty have to generate their own salaries. And so a university administrator is going to say, hey, look, you need to get your tail out there and write some grants, right? And so sometimes they feel like connecting with coalitions could be an avenue to do that. Now, research intensive grants, you know, that may not happen, like if you're looking at a grant through the NIH or something like that. But if there's any possibility of generating additional resources through grant revenues, that's going to be one motivation for faculty to connect. Interestingly, at our institution, unlike, for example, the University of Utah, we are not required to bring in additional money through grant sources in order to support our salary because we're a private institution, we're funded differently. But that is not the case with many state universities, including the one that I came from prior to here. So that's just a few bullet points of, you know, why universities are, from our perspective, why they're oftentimes connecting with our communities. And we can't forget this whole research thing as well. These are the three typical things that faculty, and maybe you know this too, are evaluated on. If I'm going to keep my job at the university, I got to do these three things. And in order to move up through the tenure and promotion process, I've got to put a portfolio together and document the heck out of if I'm jumping the bar, right? Clearing the hurdle on each of these three areas. So if you know that faculty need to be involved and engaged in research, and you've got a research idea in your coalition that you need some help with, you can leverage that understanding and go to that faculty member that may need, you know what I mean, that's got to be pumping out the research. Now that's for sure at research institutions, and as you probably know, some research institutions have a heavy emphasis on some of these areas compared to others. If we were at the University of Utah, which is a Research One institution, they may be not in the classroom at all, or just one class a year, and so the research interest is going to be much greater there. BYU's kind of a 50-50 kind of deal. We're considered a teaching institution, but the research expectations here are pretty intense. So anyway, those are good things to know. And then lastly, this idea of service. We've got to be involved in service. Now, sometimes faculty will bunker in and just capture their service responsibilities on campus. But in professionally oriented programs on campus, that almost always extends to the community, to civic engagement. We must demonstrate. And so in as much as, I guess, you know, you have that concept, you can leverage that from a coalition perspective in terms of, engaging and connecting with faculty. Just last 3 slides here really quickly as I think about my involvement in coalitions over the years. I think education has done an incredible job, higher education, you know, like the schools of education, in terms of connecting and engaging communities really well, and even coalitions. And the academic model for doing that in schools of education historically has been called the professional development school, where faculty at the university are planted into the school, like a K-12 school, on a regular basis for the purpose of assisting that school, engaging with the school. And also, you know, that's a two-way street, right? That becomes a win-win thing, because what it does is it helps the faculty member stay connected. It stay connected with those schools. My first professional higher education job, that was my assignment right here at this school. It was Lockwood School out in the rural Montana. And at once a week, I had to be in that school. So it was a formal way for faculty to connect. In public health, because we're not in a school of education, similarly, coalitions provide that same function for our faculty. It allows us to connect, to stay informed with what's going on in the field, and obviously, as Teresa talked about as well, to network and establish those really important relationships. And maybe I could just say one thing about that. Through this experience and coalition involvement up in Montana, I was able to connect one time with a group that was really interested in developing a school-based clinic at this particular school, this Lockwood School. And a coalition was established through the relationship that was created initially with the professional development program that ultimately led to the development of a clinic right on that campus. And it would, and other partners were brought into that coalition, including this hospital here, that helped to fund the whole initiative. Last couple slides with regards to the research side of things. Michelle and others in the state have been really helpful, knowing that we're motivated by this. We have a research team. There's several of us. We call our lab computational health science, and we're taking the SHARP data and we're just crunching the numbers. But from a computer science perspective, and so here's one example of a machine learning approach where we've taken the 2005 to 2019 SHARP data, thrown it all in one big pile, and then asked the computer to predict suicidal ideation in kids in the state of Utah. And the blue line is the algorithm that was most predictive, and it predicted suicidal ideation at 0.86%. So that's a pretty darn strong predictor. And then the question is, well, what questions in the SHARP survey best predicted suicidal ideation in kids? And you'll see them listed there. What was really intriguing to me is if a kid was in a family where there was a lot of serious arguments going on, then that was the strongest predictor of whether that kid was going to have suicidal ideation. Now, I know we're not looking at the constructs within the SHARP survey. We're looking at individual questions, but that question jumped out. And this is a machine learning approach where we don't have any hypothesis to begin with. We're just throwing all the data in a pile and letting the computer figure out with algorithmic methods what's working best. So hopefully this is information that we can take back to the coalition or coalitions, you know, even a statewide coalition, and say, hey, this is some of the stuff that we're finding. Interestingly, we've got several studies like this going on right now with the SHARP data, and we're finding some really intriguing things. But as far as boots on the ground and what it means for you guys, we're not completely sure at this point. We got to talk to Michelle more and others of you that may have greater insights on this. And so hopefully this becomes a win-win kind of an arrangement. And lastly, for our students, right? you know, we're all about education and higher education. And so dragging them along, it's a boring slide, but just throw that out there. My time's probably more than up. But service learning and connecting our students on various projects is a value that we have and could be leveraged by you guys as you may need more horses in the work that you do. So thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that. That was super interesting from all four of you. So if we have a few minutes, if you have any questions, please go ahead and submit them in the chat. I'll just get us started off with one. I know all four of our presenters had kind of different perspectives, whether you're a coalition trying to get people to participate or if you're a school participating with coalitions. But what if you had a tip for just a first step that people could take to get involved with their schools? What would that be? So if any of our presenters have an answer for that, feel free to jump in.
Michelle?
Yeah.
I think the first step for us was to go visit all of our schools and talk to them about the SHARP survey data, and they were pretty interested in it. So I think that would be a great first step, is just going around and visiting with everybody.
That's awesome. That's like, yeah, that is a great like benefit for the schools to be able to like get all that data explained to them. So awesome. Carl or Lori or Teresa, any thoughts on like a good first step for getting involved with your local school?
I think when we talk about SHARP's data, it's important for the school to know what's in it for them. For example, they need to know that they can use that data for their purposes as well. Because I know years ago it was really hard to have them understand why we were doing that. We're taking classroom time, we're, you know, pulling kids out for a minute, and they didn't understand the value to them as a school. They could just see that this was something they were doing for us. And once they recognized that value, it became a whole different issue, a positive thing.
I just remuted somebody who's on the phone. If you're trying to ask a question, you can unmute yourself. There's just some feedback. Thank you, Teresa. Lori or Carl, any thoughts on first steps getting involved with the schools?
Lori, go ahead.
You're good too, so.
Well, I would just say it's kind of like Teresa was mentioning. It's just taking that first step and connecting, and maybe it's, you know, oftentimes faculty may not know that coalitions exist, or may not know the work that that you guys are doing, and so it can be as simple as, hey, come join us on Thursday at noon. We're going to be talking about X. We'd really like your perspective on something. I recall, you know, 20 some years ago, a real extrovert coalition leader that I bumped into in the mall or something. And she grabbed me by the arm and said, "We need you to come to our coalition meeting." You know, I mean, it was one of those kind of things. So, I mean, that's not novel, but maybe we don't do enough of that kind of thing. And I think faculty sometimes, people in higher ed just need the invitation. They may not even know you exist.
Awesome.
Kind of that's the same with like district level personnel too, but there's always a student services department that may not be called exactly that at every district level. And there's usually someone who is trying to work on prevention measures for anything that a coalition would be trying to prevent as well. And so I feel like if you try to reach someone and you get told no, just try it again and just keep working until you find the right office and the right people, because someone is hoping that you'll catch them available because there are such good bonuses and it is a win-win for both. So yeah, so I would just say keep trying.
Awesome.
Michelle, something we do too, we make sure that our staff goes once a year into a school board meeting. We have a standing appointment with the school board,
Mhm.
and we just go in and update them on all of the things that we're doing specifically in the schools. And they have questions about other things, but that just builds that rapport. And then they're able to reach out to us when they need stuff. And it's been really nice over the years to be able to see how when something does come up, now they know where to go. They know to reach out to us, which is really great.
Another thing that I would just offer is that, so now I've been in my position a little bit longer, that I've made connections with the other schools and their student services departments. So if you're really struggling, just look up Alpine on the internet and find me. And then, I mean, I could help at least try to get you to the right person, or I could call my friend that then would know the right person, kind of thing. So really, I'm happy to do that anytime.
Awesome. That's a great offer. Okay. Any other questions? And Carl, I know that data is pretty new, but is that something that you could, like, we could share as coalition people once it's a little bit more solidified, or what's the status with that?
Yeah, I think Craig Povey is lurking in the background here somewhere. I saw a comment. I believe so, with his permission, right? He's the big cheese, providing permission for us to use the data, and we tried to keep Craig in the loop on everything we're doing. And there are some exciting new things happening with that particular research lab. And, you know, I mentioned that one question that seemed to jump out at us, but what this machine learning stuff really does is it tries to create a profile of kids that are most at risk. You know, what group of questions tend to hang together that best predict whether or not somebody's, you know, at risk or experiencing some of those outcomes, drug use, suicide, whatever it is. And the next step we've taken is we've actually created 4 different profiles of kids, groups of kids where that tend to be at risk or not for various outcomes, and that's pretty interesting too. But again, what does it mean for boots on the ground kind of work that you guys are doing? It's a whole different way of looking at the sharp data. So I guess that's, sorry, way too long answer to your question, but I think I would defer to Craig for his blessing. We did, however, present that research right there at the Society for Prevention Research. Of course, COVID shot it, and it was all virtual this year, but that particular study was presented there this year.
Awesome. Yeah, that seems like some really good data that we could use. So, Craig, do you want to hop on, or we can talk about that later? Just seeing a couple comments come through about that data. Okay. All right, we'll talk about that later. Any other questions before we wrap up for today? Okay, thank you all so much. Again, watch those emails, and we will see you all in September. So thanks, and stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you.